Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport, and this weekend was the final weekend for Extreme E in 2023, and as I've previously mentioned, this series has come on leaps and bounds since it began. It's actually very impressive what they've done to it, and hopefully they'll continue that trend. I think the self-imposed environmental restrictions are maybe causing some challenges, which I guess is to be expected. But I don't know if there's a way around that, if they're really going to stick to their guns. Although I'm fairly certain the drivers and team owners and at least some higher up members of the teams probably fly out to the countries anyway. So it definitely has a carbon footprint, as well as the production of the vehicles and the batteries especially. I'm not ultimately very knowledgeable about the manufacture of lithium-ion batteries, but I presume there's a lot of mining involved, and there's a lot of batteries needed for this. I'm guessing they're very big batteries. So this series does have a carbon footprint. I'm not entirely sure how big it is. The environmental message they put across is done very well, though, I have to say. It's not too preachy. It's obviously going to be a little bit preachy because you're preaching something. I think it's one of those topics where it's impossible to not sound preachy. But I think in terms of delivering facts and information, it's done a good job. And the video packages, especially on their YouTube page, which are free to watch, they're decently done and they're interesting enough that you won't fall asleep whilst watching them. And that was always the biggest danger with this series, is that if they were going to push the environmental message hard, was it going to turn viewers off? I don't think it does. I think they've done it very, very well. And there's still enough racing action that you don't necessarily mind sitting through 20 so minutes of environmental messages. That being said, the racing, as I said, it's improved a lot. I still have a few issues with it, but given the structure of the series, I don't think there's too much they can do about it. And my main concern, I guess, I think was clear this at Chile, at the Copper X Prix, which, complaining about copper mining in a series where batteries are made through materials that you mine, it's a little bit hypocritical. But in terms of the racing, the biggest issue I have is when you only have 10 cars entered and you have them split into 2 races of 5 3 times, when you get a race with a couple of big accidents in them, you then have the rest of that race to where basically you're forced to watch 2 cars that aren't particularly close together go round for a fairly long period of time. And I think it's the problem with the Rallycross format, and it works in Rallycross, it doesn't necessarily work here, and that's because the laps are longer. Now, they have made them shorter. I'm sure each lap used to be a lot longer, but each race is still about 10 or so minutes, maybe a bit longer. The thing is, when Rallycross, you would just have endless races, because you'd have the main class would have 16 cars, but there'd be juniors and other categories, lower power. You have world, European, national. So you would just be bombarded with constant races because they're short. You know, the heats used to be like 4 laps with a joker lap. The laps tended to be 40 seconds to a minute. So even though if you had 10 races, 9 of them would be really good, but even if there was a stinker where, say, there's a big crash that took out most of the cars at the start, it would only last like 4 minutes max. The problem here is we lost 3 cars in one of the races, and that was then just 2 cars going around for about 10 minutes. Not necessarily very entertaining to watch. And as spectacular as it is, there comes a point where it's different from rallying or rally raid, where there's tension built in different ways, or You've got your attention spent on other things. Here, it's not very entertaining when there's very few cars. And also, because they've sailed over and the cars are here, they're limited on supplies. They don't necessarily have just extra cars lying around to use. So when one car gets damaged on day one, it doesn't appear on day two, which happened to Andretti. And that was a big shame, because it means we get one of the races that has one less car. Also, we barely saw the Andretti drivers this weekend. As for the championship, it was very, very tight, especially between Acciona Science and the RXR team. And it was some great racing. Both suffered in the first heat. I think they both made it to the final, and RXR won. And second day, Veloce, who had missed out on the championship, they had a bad first day. They won the second day. But RXR win the championship, which means Johan Kristoffersson has 2 Extreme E championships to add to his 6 World Rallycross championships and his 2 Scandinavian Touring Car championships and his International Superstars championship and whatever else he's won. It's pretty incredible. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again, that Johan Kristoffersson is one of the best race drivers out there ever. The thing is, even if you compare him to someone like Lewis Hamilton, if you put them in Formula 1 cars, obviously Lewis Hamilton's going to win. Single seaters, yeah, probably still Lewis Hamilton. Anything else, Johan Kristoffersson will beat him. And if it's on dirt, he'll beat him handily. And there are very few drivers like that, and most of them tend to be Swedish. Another one would be Matthias Ekström, who has won DTM championships and World Rallycross Championship, and he's raced in the WRC. I think he's won Race of Champions a few times as well. He's just one of those, they're just people who can get in a car and go quick. And that is such a unique talent. How many times do you see someone switch series, even if it's vaguely similar, but struggle? And it's incredible what Johan Kristoffersson, who's also won races in World TCR, and he's raced in Porsche Scandinavia, which he may have also won, but I'm not entirely sure. And you can see him in anything almost. I mean, maybe not single-seaters. I don't actually know if he's ever raced single-seaters. I know he was racing in the Scandinavian Touring Car Championship a long, long time ago. I think that's how he started. I think his dad raced in that as well. His dad was also a rallycrosser, but I don't think as successful. But yeah, Johan Kristoffersson, incredible. Michaela Arlen-Kalinski, she has become an incredible driver. I've seen her in various series, but I've seen her score points in the World Rallycross and whatnot, and she's appearing more and more. So Extreme E has helped her make a name for herself and get her employment elsewhere. And that's a really good thing the series has done. Compared to a lot of other electric series, I think Extreme E, I don't know, maybe it's not the best. I guess Formula E is the best electric series, but Extreme E is the only other really successful one. I mean, you look at World Rallycross, it has struggled with electric, and other series, as we've mentioned, haven't even started, like the Electric GT Championship that was meant to begin, and the Scandinavian Touring Cars that was meant to begin this year, which has been moved to next year. Electric isn't easy. It has a lot of challenges, especially in terms of motorsport, but there are interesting advances in the technology and different race formats. We have the Eco Grand Prix, which is a 24-hour race, which is judged by distance instead of time. That's clever. Possibly the future of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, although I hope not, because it sounds very niche. And honestly, Extreme E, it's taken them a long time. I think the first season we could see the potential, but the racing was pretty dire at times. They've really focused in on what works and what doesn't. Biggest issues, as I said, I think if cars are damaged, it does affect the racing. Also, the logistical challenges involved with having these cars brought over on a ship. I think this year as well, we've seen big issues in terms of visibility. Scotland comes to mind. That race was crazy just because cars couldn't see. It happened here again. Katie Munnings, Andretti, had a really bad crash, and it was because she couldn't see anything in front of her. I don't know what the solution to that is. And obviously, it's something that happens in Rally Raid all the time. but that can happen between cars that are miles apart. When you have close racing like this, I don't know what the solution would be. But that was it. Extreme E's over for another year. Commiserations to the Acciona Science team for just missing out. Congratulations to Johan Kristoffersson and Michaela Arlen-Kolinski and Nico Rosberg for another successful year for them. The Brabham Best Drivers ranking list is coming. I've started writing it. I haven't edited it yet. So hopefully Tuesday. And so make sure you subscribe for that. Leave your thoughts down below. Tell me what you think of Extreme E. Any improvements you can think that could be made. Anything you don't like about the series. Whatever you want. And with that, thank you very much for watching and have a good one.